Hello everyone, it's Eric here, and I thought in this video I would share my initial impressions of Warhammer the Old World, the rulebook, and the Bretonnian starter set. So that's what I got, along with a few other things. So it was delayed because of a winter storm here in the USA, so that was a bit of a bummer, but I finally got it, and I've been working on it, so I thought I'd share some updates. So first I'm going to talk about the rulebook, and then I'm going to talk about the model. So the rulebook is really nice. It's a big, heavy hardcover rulebook, and the artwork is really nice. A lot of it's already been displayed on the preview articles on Warhammer Community, but it's really nice to hold in your hand, and it's really great to see this realized after so much wait from the initial announcement, I think in 2019. And they do include some really nice pictures of whole armies in the middle of the rulebook, or towards the middle. But one thing I will say about the army pictures is that there are no pictures of painted beastmen, so I find that very strange that there's only 9 factions out of the original, I think, like 17 or 15 or so, or 16. And Beastmen is one of the official factions, but there's no pictures of them anywhere in the rulebook. So everyone else gets pictures in the army display pages, but not the Beastmen. So I find that kind of strange. And also, in the army pictures of this Chaos Chariot, I'm pretty sure this specific chariot has been photoshopped onto the square base, so they didn't actually rebase this one. I think they just took a picture of the Age of Sigmar chariot and photoshopped a square base. So it's kind of interesting, but whatever. But I kind of skipped the rules. So the rules are they're exactly what you want if you're nostalgic for the old rules. It really is what they said it was. It's a combination of a lot of the kind of the greatest hits, so to speak, of all the previous editions of Fantasy Battles. So you got a lot of influence from Sixth and from Eighth and from editions I have never even read or played in. So yeah, overall I'm really happy with the rules. I haven't even finished the core rules yet. It's pretty long. It's a really long textbook, so it's going to take some time to read the rules, but I feel like the core rules are fairly simple, but it's just there's a lot of nuance and edge cases that accommodate for them. So, and it really does kind of feel like a battle simulator in the sense that you're thinking about moving and wheeling and charging and countercharging and flanks and rears, and you have initiative, and it feels like how mentally you'd imagine things happening in if this were like a video. It feels like a simulation of what you'd expect. Whereas in Age of Sigmar or even 40K, they got rid of initiative, and when units engage in close combat, it's just who goes first is determined by whose turn it is, and that's a very kind of I find that very gamey in that it's not simulating what would happen in the reality if this were a real scenario. It's just a pure game mechanic that kind of makes things easier to play and just a little simpler. But I mean, each his own. Some people may like that. I kind of like the more of the simulation aspect, whereas you take into account each character's individual initiative, and so yeah, a lot of very detailed rules, and there's things like modifiers for shooting, like moving and shooting is a -1, or shooting behind cover is another -1, and long range that's another -1, and so if you're into that nitty gritty details, then this is really what this should really satisfy that. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah, so that's my opinion of the rules. I haven't finished reading it so far, but I'm not in a hurry because I still got to paint a lot of stuff. Speaking of which, I've been making some progress on the Men at Arms in the starter set for the Bretonnians, and I'm gonna be honest, it's a little overwhelming to get 72, or I think it's around 70 models all at once. Because normally I'm used to getting one box of like say 16, and then you work on that. But because when you get a box of 16, your reference point is 16. So if you finish 4, then it's like, oh well, I finished a quarter of what I'm working on. Whereas you have 72, you're like, well, I haven't even finished 10% of what I'm working on. So it can feel a little daunting, but I don't know. I've been having a really good time painting these, and the more you stick to it, the more kind of you get into a groove, and then you kind of build momentum, and then you kind of it gets a little easier. So I'm going for the kind of the 2000 the mid 2000s color scheme for the 6th edition Bretonnians color scheme for the Men at Arms, with the really vibrant red and blue and yellow lion heraldry on their shields. And I think the interesting thing about this the paint scheme for the men at arms is that they were all kind of had different uniforms or different tunics or gowns or whatever. Because they all kind of have like either olive drab or brown or khaki clothes, and I get a mix and match, and no two men at arms are the same. So it's been a lot of fun just kind of thinking of different color schemes for each guy, and I'm really happy with how they're turning out. I'm really experimenting with some Green Stuff World paints, some Vallejo Game Color paints, and some AK third gen paints, and really mixing paints. And I haven't used decals in a while, but yeah, honestly, I'm at a point where possibly more comfortable with a paintbrush than I am applying decals, because I find that even with microsol and gloss varnish, that sometimes you can still get some silvering on the decals. So I gotta work on that. I've really been enjoying painting, and I know when I first learned when the old world was going to be released, I kind of stopped just what I was working on because I knew the square bases were coming, and I was tired of like painting things on a round base and then transferring it to a square base when I eventually got it. So I just wanted to wait until I got the square bases. So I like to paint the bases first, and I'm going for like a kind of a dark earth kind of scheme. I painted this base and the other bases I displayed using. I started with black, and then I went for like a really dark brown, reddish brown, and then I went for like a beige, and then I went for like a pale sand kind of dry brush on top. And then I put on some static grass and some little clump foliage from like a hobby shop or Hobby Lobby. And I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I can't wait to really finish units and knights and all the other heraldry. It's kind of a challenge to, I want to paint something I'm proud of, but at the same time, I need to kind of be efficient because I've got a lot of stuff to paint. So my thinking is that I'll put a bit more effort on the faces. So on the faces, I start with the mid-tone base coat of Acadian flesh tone, not Acadian flesh tone, but that kind of color, and then I'll use a soft wash of Reichland flesh shade mixed with Lamia medium to really get some subtle shading, and then I'll go in with like a really fine brush with a sharp point, and then take some pure Reichland flesh shade, and then paint into those recesses in the darkest recesses, say like in between the lips and in between the folds of the cheeks and under the lids and under the nose. So that really gets a nice deep shading. And then I'll go back with mid-tone and then reestablish the mid-tone and really clean it up a bit. And then I'll go with like a Kislev flesh kind of color, and then paint on some highlights, dot on some highlights on the nose and the cheeks and the upper lid and the lips. And then I painted the eyes. So I'm really happy with how the faces are turning out. And for eyes, I definitely recommend getting like one of those magnifying glasses with the lights on it. They really make it easy. And my top tip for painting eyes is magnification and working with really really thin paint, but just not a lot of paint on your brush. I feel like if you can make the face look good, then since it's such a focal point, when people see the face, they'll see it looks good, and then they'll think, this is a really well painted model if the face looks really good. So, and then you'll notice, or you may not notice, on the boots, I just pretty much painted it brown and gave it some really basic recess shading and no highlights. So I really spent less time on the boots and more time on the faces and the skin and on the wood and the shield, because those I feel are the focal points. And on the men at arms, the shields pretty much are 70% of what you see when viewing these guys from the front. So happy with it, but decals can be a little finicky to work with. So for the knights, I'm probably not even going to use decals because again, like I've said in previous videos, I'm going to be doing the kind of the eclectic knights from different dukedoms. So there's no decal sheet that was included in the box set for these, and I don't want to chase them down on eBay and pay a lot of money for it. So probably going to freehand all those. So yeah, it's very exciting. So overall, my initial impression of the old world release is, I mean, if you're into the hobby, you like painting, and you really like the old world models, maybe you're into Total War Warhammer and you like the setting, then it's really great because you're going to have tons of these nostalgic models to paint. But I mean, if you're really just into the game, I mean, it's the same. It's basically more or less the Warhammer Fantasy that once was, but just it's been kind of optimized and refined a little bit. But I mean, my concern for the game itself is that I feel like you're gonna have to. I feel like you're not going to be able to just go to any random store and be able to play a game of the old world because it's going to be a bit more niche, and the Warhammer, the old world armies are going to have more models than say 40k. Because I know just the Bretonnian starter set has 72 models, and I feel like an average 40k army would have maybe like 50. Just because each model is usually worth more, and everyone's kind of like a super soldier. Whereas in Warhammer the Old World, it's more about kind of common infantry and ranks upon ranks of spearmen and halberdiers and archers. So there's just more models to paint, so it's going to take longer to get your army ready, and there's probably just fewer people that are into it. So, I mean, you may have to kind of look on social media to find someone in your local area to get a game in with. So it may be a while before you actually play a game because these models are just being re-released now, and everyone else is possibly either using their old army or starting a new one. So there's just much smaller player base. So if you're just in it for the game, I don't know if this is. I don't know if I could recommend this just because it's so much work up front, and like I said in the beginning of this video, it can be kind of daunting just painting 72 guys, and I have more than that. I have a lot of stuff to paint, so it'd be kind of daunting. But if you really like the hobby and you really like painting, then it's a great day for that. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. This has been Eric, and I'm signing out. I thank you for watching my video, and if you like my content, please consider liking and subscribing. And also, I have some affiliate links in the description below. If you would like to support my channel and you would like to see what kind of tools and brushes and books I use and recommend, there's some Amazon links. And if you click on those links and purchase something from Amazon, I do get a small kickback. And if you'd like to support the channel, it's no extra cost to you. Thank you for watching the video, and maybe leave a like if you like my content. I'd really appreciate it. So take care. Have a great day. Bye bye.